So, thank you, pals, and it's very nice to be back in Latvia again. I'm Stephen Airey, so my job is to look after new member states, associate members, cooperating states who want to do business with ESA and who want to get involved in the space industry. And my role is to be the caretaker of the finances for that, to lead the capability and competence development programs for those countries. So I've been working with Latvia now, I think since the start, so it's been quite a journey. And what I'm planning to present to you today is the opportunities for you as Latvians to be able to work in space through ESA with ESA funding and getting access then to the ESA technical officers who have many years of experience in working in space, with the hope of building up industry here to be a sustainable, profitable, contributing part of the European and worldwide space industry. Now, I'm going to start, first of all, with a little recap, because the story, at least with ESA, started really in 2015 with PEX. Which was a 5-year program to prepare Latvian entities and to prepare the Latvian government and to prepare ESA on our side for working together to be able to see, well, what core competences do you already have in Latvia that we can readily and easily use in space? And so RD Alpha was one of the those companies that we were talking to at that point. And for you to understand how to work with us and how to work with the ESA system, to work with technical officers, and to understand a bit more about ESA and where you might fit in and be able to play a role. Now, that first 5-year period went very successfully, and Latvia applied to be an associate member. And now from 2020, you have been an associate member, and I have to say a pretty successful one to date so far. So let's hope that this will continue and even grow and grow into the future. So as an associate member, the big difference is that you now have access to all of the ESA optional programs. ESA is run on the basis of optional programs, and each country decides which ones they want to subscribe to at any one point and for how much, and then we operate on a bit of a basis called geographical fair return, which means that the money that you pay into that optional program comes back and is spent in Latvia for you to be part of the missions and the technology development that takes place there. Now, we have a very wide range of programs in ESA. They cover everything you can imagine, from biology, human medicine, to space science, space research, to telecommunications, to quantum computing that we heard about also a few presentations ago. Now, to start off, it's only worth to subscribe to one of these programs when you have enough mature companies in that area for the government to invest in. So currently we've started with 4 different areas, 4 different optional programs that Latvia is subscribed to. There's the GSTP, there's Future EO, there's E3P, and Space Safety. Now, I'm going to talk today just about GSTP and Future EO, because within E3P and Space Safety at the moment, we have been very successful, but it means we've also committed all of the money that is available at the moment in those programs to support flight hardware that will fly on the Hera mission, which is a follow-up to Comet Interceptor, and on the a mission to the Lunar Gateway to resupply fuel on the Lunar Gateway. So those 2 programs at the moment, we've already been incredibly successful, and to be able to get flight programs so early on in being an associate member is a significant achievement. But of course, we want to have more, and we have another program sitting next to that called the RPA, which is a national program which is just for you, and which I'll also talk about, which means that none of the areas of space and space investment are closed to you. That fills out all of the gaps, and it means any technology that is related to space, you have a funding opportunity through ESA to be able to grow that into a business. Now, to say a few words about the General Support Technology Program, it's our widest ranging program that we have in ESA. It is growing technology, building capabilities and competencies, and aiming at building products and qualifying products. It deals with a very wide range of different technologies and technology areas. So in that way, it's very open. And it's in fact one of only 2 programs where every single member state is contributing. So once you have reached a TRL of about TRL 3 or TRL 4, this would be the place to come and try to compete to get money to be able to raise up those TRLs to TRL 6 and a qualification when it becomes attractive to customers to be able to be bought as an off-the-shelf item. You can see here, I won't go through all of it because otherwise I'm going to run out of time quite considerably. But it covers a wide range, as I say, on-ground applications like EGSE, ground stations, that sort of stuff, as well as the in-flight applications, the things that go on satellites, the hardware there. Now, it's split up into 3 different elements. Element 1 is the main one that would be of interest to Latvians at the moment, which is the develop element, which is the one that really is taking your products and moving them from TRL 3 up to TRL 6. It's done by a work plan, so in order to get involved with this, you can either bid on the open competitions that are issued on the ESA Star website for technologies that we know we need, or you can talk with your delegates, so Kaspers and Angelina, to say we have an idea that we think can be a product or service that ESA will need, and they can work with GSTP to get it put onto that work plan so that then you can bid for it, and probably you're the only ones to bid for it in that case. Element 2 and Element 3 are not so relevant to you at the moment, but Element 3 gives you the opportunity to do test flights, to fly your hardware, say it's been in space, and Element 2 enables you to come in a more direct way to develop your products and services, but then you need to have a significant amount of co-funding. What is interesting about this, and it's true of all of the ESA programs, development programs and funding, is the IPR. So first of all, the activity is typically 100% funded by ESA. You don't need to contribute yourself. And despite this, you are the owners of the IPR, and we encourage you to exploit it and use it for your own commercial benefit and commercial value. So it's a key thing that ESA does have some rights over it, but even though we are paying for it, it is you that own the IPR if you do the development. Now in Future EO, this is where we do our Earth observation work. It's split into each of the missions and program missions that we run, so that's the satellite developments. And we have some of these are funded through the Copernicus program, through the EU, and all of those, everything that's funded through the EU but channeled through us, in fact, you are able to bid on and you're able to try and get a part of that work. Under the ESA part of that program, we have missions which we are aiming to develop technology here in Latvia sufficiently that it will fit on those and that you'll have the opportunity to participate in those missions in the future. However, currently what we're focused on is the downstream applications, the science and data exploitation, the artificial intelligence, these sorts of areas. Now, within the structure of Future EO, this is the 4th pillar here, the Earth Science for Society. And you see what we're focused on there is using the data coming from the ESA satellites, but also from the Copernicus, the Sentinel satellites, to be able to develop applications that are useful to society, useful to the government, and bring savings or insights that are not available in any other way. And as an example, I can mention that we've been working with entities here in Latvia to develop forestry maintenance and forestry monitoring applications, which give you the oversight over all of the forests in the whole country updated every few days. Great for spotting things like illegal activity, great for spotting disease outbreaks, great for spotting wind and fire damage and this sort of thing. So that's one example of something that's really happened in Latvia and is now a commercial service. Here, just to name some names about entities that have had successfully bid for and won contracts under the optional programs. Not exhaustive, but just to give you some evidence that we have success cases here in Latvia. Now, I want to spend a little bit more time talking about the so-called RPA. I know it's a terrible acronym, I apologize for that, but what it is actually is a National Space Capability Development Fund. So it is only available to Latvian entities, whereas all of the other optional programs, you're competing against the rest of Europe and the rest of the ESA member states. This one is just for you. It is a gap filler program. So it is intended to take you from low TRLs and get you up to a high enough TRL where you can competitively bid into one of the optional programs. It's also intended as a way to introduce you to your potential customers in a nice, easy, friendly way that they do not have to invest too much of their own time, they're not risking too much, and you get to learn to work together and see whether you can have a successful collaboration or business partnership in the future. It's also intended to plug the gaps. So, as I mentioned, ESA has a wide variety of optional programs. Currently, you're subscribed to 4, and actually only 2 are available to you. But through the RPA, you can do work on any technology that would fit in any optional program that you do not subscribe to specifically. This is in order that you can build up sufficient capabilities and competence that it is convincing to your government to then go and subscribe to those optional programs as well. So it's a nice, safe environment in which to do that. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time on how it is structured. So we have 8 different categories of things that we can fund, and each of them is for a different and dedicated purpose. The first one here, Type A, is targeted especially for startups, for people entering into the space market for the first time, for people who have a new idea, new concept, want to check out what are the requirements for that, what's the market for that, is there a real business case? And when you have the BIC, which should open here in the business incubator, which should open here later this year, this is an ideal first contract for any of those BIC incumbents. The activity type B, that's the gap filler. That's the one that you would apply to if you want to do developments, even up to higher TRLs like TRL 6, but in a technology area where you are not subscribed to the relevant program in ESA. So through this activity type, you can see that there is a funding available and a technology development path for you in every area of space. You're not excluded from anything. I think that's very important. I also want to point out here that activity type F on this slide, the bottom one, and this is specifically for space applications, for downstream applications, where once you've demonstrated that it is feasible, you have your prototype, often the difficult part is convincing your first customer to come and buy that. Once you've got a first customer, everybody else seems to have the confidence in it and they all rush to buy it as well. But getting that first one is really hard. So this is a funding line dedicated to breaking that first customer barrier. So if you're already at TRL 6 or TRL 7, we will co-fund an activity with you to complete that application, to take it into your first customer, to install it, to get it running, to teach them how to use it, to get them addicted to it, basically, and then after 3 to 6 months to pull the plug and say, okay, now if you want to carry on, you have to start paying. And there's very few places where you can get that sort of funding in ESA. The other thing we do is we want to support the holistic development of the whole space industry here in Latvia. And education and workforce is a key part of that. So we also have funding lines to be able to support your universities to develop BScs and MSc courses and modules that teach the students the things that you as industry need them to know for them to be effective workers in your area the day they step out of the door after qualifying, and you don't need to spend another year or 2 years retraining them and teaching them everything. That is the purpose. It should have a very close cooperation between industry and academia, where everybody benefits. There's also some opportunities there to fund things like internships, but also PhDs if they are having a specific relevance to your business and your industry. Now, this is the overall model of how we see and try to fund that educational development and its relationship with industry, its relationship with ESA, but also its relationship internationally, because we do believe in developing international cooperation right from the start. You find space is a very small world, despite even a large number of people in the room today and just in one country, but it tends to be that once you've met somebody who's working in space, throughout your career, you will keep meeting them in different roles and different roles. Like Peter, who used to work with us in ESA and was sharing an office, and now I bump into him again here, and we'll be sharing a panel later. So having that those international contacts is really key. If you can get them as a student, that will help you throughout your entire career and also help the company that employs you. So that's one of the key things, which leads me on to my last part, while I'm already over time, which is the importance of international cooperation. So ESA is, by its nature, an organization designed for international cooperation and to leverage cooperation between countries to achieve things that we cannot achieve as individual countries, and to do those things in a more efficient way by combining and pooling some key resources and key infrastructure. Anybody who has seen the test center at ESA, at ESTEC, will immediately understand why this is important, because you look around that and say, okay, to do big space missions, you need big infrastructure, and it is pointless to support such infrastructure in every country. So we join forces together, we build it once, every member state can use that. It's also super important because space, even commercial space, by its nature is highly international. There isn't a country that can do everything from end to produce a spacecraft. There are supply chains, and getting into those supply chains is key if you want to have a sustainable business. And ESA's supply chains are no different from the commercial supply chains. So to get into supply chains from ESA's side point also sets you up to have good potential commercial space business as well. So that's why cooperation for us is absolutely key, and we strongly encourage you, even when you're using the national funds for the national capability development, to include an international customer in there, or an international partner or collaborator. How you find those can be a good question, and is quite difficult sometimes. One of the ways that I'm going to advertise is in May, we will have in ESTEC a conference showcasing the capabilities of the newer member states of ESA. So that's the Baltic regions, we have the Balkan regions, Hungary, who is here as well, they will also be present. And we'll also have a lot of the mid-caps and the LSIs who are actually going to be your customers there. And this is a meet and greet networking event where you can see who might be interesting for you to cooperate with and have good chats with them. Events like this, these are key to be able to develop your network and get into this international cooperation. And with that, I think I have well overrun my time, less than I normally do. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen. So